Okay, welcome to this tutorial where I'll be showing you how to do some extractions using an image inside of ZBrush. So this extraction method is particularly useful for people that are doing 3D printing and have got a design or something. Now what we'll be doing is we'll be applying this as a mask inside of ZBrush. So with that in mind, you do have the ability to just use your normal masking brushes inside of ZBrush and do exactly the same. So it's kind of like a double course for you. It's showing you how to do it with an image, and also remember that if you mask yourself inside of ZBrush, you can do the extractions that way as well. So what I've got here is I've got a Spider-Man image that I downloaded from the internet, and I've just made sure that this image is in black and white and that my canvas size is square. So I've got it as a pixel size of 3500 by 3500, which is well big enough, and also there's a lot of white space around it. Notice the white space around it. Okay, so we will actually be UVing something so we can lay this in position, but you could just use this as an alpha inside of ZBrush as well. So what you need to do is just make sure you save this as, and I'm saving it as a JPEG here, so I'm just going to save it in here with minimal compression on this. So I'm just going to call it Spider Logo, and we're just going to save that onto my desktop now. It's going to come up with a compression ratio, and I want the quality to be 100%, so I put it on quality 12 and I click OK. It makes it a bigger file size, but it does preserve the quality of the image because there's less compression happening on the image when you do that inside of a JPEG format. Okay, so obviously the lower you go on the compression rate, the lower the quality of the image will be, and also the file size will be smaller as well, so that's something to bear in mind. This file size will be the maximum it can be at this size, which is 374 kilobytes, which is still quite small, but if I did a massive compression on that, I could probably get it down to about 10. So that's the difference, but obviously I'm working with quality stuff, so I want to keep everything as high quality from my images as possible. And saying that, that applies to anything that you do inside of 3D. You want to keep the image quality as high as possible, except when you're producing maps where you've got a particular size you've got to match to, such as a low quality map of 512 pixels. Okay, so with that said, let's move into ZBrush. Okay, so I've got ZBrush open, so let's just go and create something like a cylinder 3D. So I've opened that up, gone into edit mode, and I make it a polymesh 3D. I'm not really worrying too much about the resolution on this, so I didn't go to initialize. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to scale it up this way, and I'm going to go back to draw mode, and I'm going to make this top one a polygroup and this a polygroup. So I'm going to use the control key to mask. I'm going to drag across the top layer, and then I'm going to press Control W, or you can go to polygroups and you can go group masked like that. Now I can press the control key and drag to get rid of the mask. You can see I've got a separate polygroup. Let's do the same at the bottom. Control drag across, Control W, and that's now got its own polygroup as well. Okay, so now if I press the Control and Shift and click on this, you can see that the tops have disappeared, and Control Shift and drag, and you can see there it appears there. So I've got 3 polygroups. Now my aim here is to unwrap this middle part, which is a cylinder, and these parts at the top and the bottom I don't really care about. So I'm going to go into my Z plugin. I'm going to go down to UV master. I'm going to check polygroups, really important, and I'm going to click unwrap. Now that will have done that, so I'm going to come back to the group and I'm going to go flatten, and you can see that our cylinder part has been stretched out here. So let's go and unflatten this. Plugins, UV master, UV unflatten, and let's go and test it with a checker map just to check. I'm going to turn polyframe off, and I'm actually going to go into a basic material. Basic materials can be found under the material tab down there. Let's go to texture map and go and drag a map in here. I'm going to use this texture here, which is a checker map. We're going to apply it and just look and see if there's much distortion. That looks pretty good, and you can see I've got the seam at the back there. That's where the end of the UVs are on that seam. Top's pretty flat and the bottom's pretty flat, and it's given us quite a good UV map there. So I'll now go to this and I'll turn the texture off. Okay, so what we can do now is we can go into surface and we can go to noise. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little alpha, and I'm going to go and locate on my desktop our Spider-Man logo, JPEG. I'm going to apply it into here, And I'm going to make sure UVs is turned on. And you're not going to see much happening on the screen at the moment, but if I go and start to increase the strength of this, you're going to see it appear on here. Now what I need to do is turn the mix. At the moment we've got a mixture of noise and texture, so if I just turn this mix to 0, then it will just give us this logo. Now also notice that it's actually pushing in rather than out, but at this point in time it doesn't matter. Now also our position is a little bit out on this, so it would be good to actually change the position of this as well. So in order to get an exact placement of where we want this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click cancel, and I'm actually going to do a map of this piece out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color it. So I'm going to go Control Shift on this piece here. Yep, Control Shift to get rid of the top and the bottom. Then I'm going to go into a red down here, and I'm going to go to RGB color, and I'm going to fill. Now I'm going to press the Control Shift and drag, and that will give me the tops and the bottom. And I'm going to go to a green like this, and I'm going to fill that. I'm going to click both, and you can see I've got a little bit of green appearing, but what you can do is you can press the Control key. You can actually mask parts out. Control Shift, click on there, mask this whole piece out. Control Shift, click. Control and click. Sorry, Control and drag. Right, Control Shift, click on here. Okay, so I've got those green bits. Mask that one. Control Shift, click. Control Shift, mask, Control Shift. And let's fill this back with red again. Yeah, now this is actually happening because of the amount of polygons that I've got on the model. And actually I don't have to worry about this too much. Just turn that off. Alright, okay, it's going to give me my placement anyway. So what I'm going to do now is come down to texture map, and I'm going to go create from polypaint. This will give us this. And I'm going to click this, and I'm going to go clone here. It'll appear over here. So now I can go to texture, it's up here, and I can export this out. So I can just export, make sure you've got that one selected, click export. I'm going to export that to our desktop, click save. Notice this is upside down. I'm going to just minimize this now. I'm going to open up that new file that was exported, and I'm going to put the logo in position. Now if you remember, it was pushing in, and that's because we had black spider. If we made it a white spider, it will push out, but for what we're going to do, it doesn't really matter because I'm going to inverse the selection. So this is our UV map now, so I'm going to just open, and I'm going to open our Spider-Man. I'm going to press Control A, then Control C to copy it, and inside here I'm going to press Control V. Now I'm going to change the fill down there, and I'm going to press Control T. This will allow me to now put this into position. So I'm going to turn it this way around, bring it down in size and put it in the middle, something like that. Okay, double click, take that opacity up to 100, create a new layer, drag that down there, fill it with white. That, and now that's in position, so it's matched to that UV. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save that out as a JPEG. Let's call this UV, and you're going to notice that the position is going to be exactly in the right place now. So let's turn this texture back off. So colouring it was only to show us the UVs, all right? So I want to make this all one colour again, so I'm going to go, or I want it not to have a colour. So I'm going to go into flat colour, make sure mRGB is turned on, go to colour and fill object. Oh, make sure it's a white, by the way, like that. Okay, now I can return back to the basic material, and it's all good. So back to surface noise, open the surface noise plugin, go to alpha, click the spider logo UV, that will click in there. Let's just increase that strength, and make sure we click UV. Now this is where the magic will happen. At the moment we've got it on 3D and we've got 2 layers. If I click UV, it's now in the exact position that we had before. So I want to make mix 0 and bring that strength out a little bit more. It doesn't matter too much. Click OK. You're going to see that appear on this model. Now it's the wrong way around, but it doesn't matter. We can just straighten it, and in fact it's inverted. Which is not good. It's not a problem though. I can come into this and I can come into the image. Let's merge this down, Control E, image, transform, flip horizontally, save as, JPEG. Let's overwrite the UVs, click save, click yes, yes, back into this, back into the noise, edit, turn that off, come back in, grab this one, should be okay now, click OK, and there we go. Yeah, perfect. Now I'm going to need some resolution in this mesh to be able to get this to come out. So let's turn noise off for a second, and now let's start to add resolution into this. Now we need resolution to make the extraction. So what I generally do, just because we need one for extraction, is I duplicate it, and I'm just going to call this extraction. Okay, good. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come into here and I'm going to go to crease, and I'm going to click crease, and this will crease these polygroups around the edge here. So let's click crease. Notice that little extra edge loops were added in there. If I go back one, you'll see, and this just keeps that nice and crisp when I divide it. Okay, now I'm going to start dividing it. I'm going to turn polyframe off so it's visible. I've got smooth turned on. Click this and you're going to start to get this really smooth. So I'm coming up quite high with this, about subdivision level 7. So if I now come down to my surface noise and turn this back on, this is what we're going to get, and I'm going to apply this as a mask. So I'm going to click apply as mask. This has masked it all out. Now I want to invert this, and this is where I said it doesn't matter if it's black and white if you're using this method, because it's easy to invert it. Just hold the control key and you click once and it'll invert it. Now what I generally do, I need this to be as sharp as possible, so I'm going to press the control key for mask and I'm going to press Alt, and this will crispen up the mask. If you notice how crisp it's got now, and this is going to be perfect for our extraction. Now remember, because we duplicated that tool, we've still got that low res tool there. So let's now go into extract and let's just click that extract button. Now I generally turn this slightly sideways so I can see the extraction, because this is a preview of it. Let's hit the extract and this is what we've got. So it's coming out quite well on here. Remember, as well as coming out, it'll also go into the model by the same distance. So this is really good for 3D printing when you merge two parts together. So let's click accept. And now it's formed that one as a separate tool. So I'm pressing the control key and I'm just going to drag. And you're going to notice that this one's still got, if I go into solo, still got the mask on it. So I'm just going to delete that out, get rid of that. And now we've got this piece here that's ready to go. We've got this low res piece as well. And also by using the Boolean features, we could actually Boolean this away. So you could do a cutout here of this piece. Let me just show you. And you can cut that into the model just by using the Boolean. So you could pull it out or you could push it in using the Boolean method. So that's how we can do really clean extractions of this. Now if I wanted to get these two pieces to go together for a watertight mesh, all I would need to do, as long as I've got these two active tools, not this one on, this one and this one, is I can come down to Boolean and I can go make Boolean mesh, and it will combine these pieces. It will also save all the polygroups as well. So let's let it do that. Then of course, if you're 3D printing, you could decimate it down to get further revisions on this. So now we have a Boolean mesh. It's gone up here as a U mesh. So I'm going to click append, and I'm going to append this new U mesh in, which is here. Let's turn all these other layers off, and if I look at the polyframe, you can see it's all matched together. So it's cut that out, and it's one watertight mesh. Now from this point, of course, you can go and decimate that down to a smaller file size, because this one is 2.1 million. So if you wanted to decimate it, you could go into the Z plugins, go to decimation master. We could decimate this down to about 5 or 8%, and we could go pre-process current. That's the one we're on. And once it's finished pre-processing, we can then decimate it. So it's pre-processed now, so I'm going to come down to the Z plugins, and I'm just going to go decimate current. Now do make sure your quality has been kept. You can jump between these to make sure the quality is kept, and if you look, it's now done a decimation. So if I go on to this, you'll see now that it's 360,000, so down from 2.1 million polygons, we've got it down to 350 using decimation with no side effects. It's still nice and crisp and ready to go. So that's just one technique. I show many techniques on how to control detail, and especially depths, measuring depths for 3D printing. Loads of techniques in my course, The Goblin War Chariot. So if you look at the promo at the end of this, then you think, oh yeah, I'd like to take that course. Well, I've got a special promo code written in the descriptions below where you can take this course and learn many techniques used for producing 3D printing with control of detail inside of ZBrush for 3D printers. This free lecture is from my ZBrush 3D printing course, The Goblin War Chariot. In this course, we'll learn to actually control detail in this speed-driven guide to producing 3D printings with ZBrush. This course is live. Find out more in the descriptions.